So I was going to pick up on, I think Bernie kicked us off with the idea for the need for systems thinking and the challenges that presents as well. Peter went on to describe the need for IT and the impact that IT can have with regards to the convergence discussion that we're having. Then Jim went on to talk about the need for smarter buildings, to have a place for us to understand dynamically how buildings are performing, not just in the design environment, but across the operational use of those buildings. And I think a key phrase out of that was to address the suboptimal decisions that are being made in the construction process. Finally, Mike brought to bear the idea that hearts and minds need to be very much engaged in this discussion. Yes, as Ian has pointed out, it's predominantly been a technology discussion today, with the exception of some policy discussions, but actually at the heart of this convergence, clearly we need to have a focus on the people aspect and engaging hearts and minds. So, with a wish and a prayer, I'll try and cover all of those threads in the presentation. So first of all, I wanted to start off with really this perspective from a design technology company. As Mark has identified, Autodesk is a design technology software company. We provide design solutions to millions of architects, engineers that are designing, creating, building the built environment as well as manufactured products. So one of the most powerful things that we believe we can bring to bear in these twin ideas of technology, tool sets, and hearts and minds in the form of mindset is what we're seeing here in the slide, is representation of a model for a virtual model of a building. And essentially what we're seeing here is a way to integrate different disciplines, to integrate different people and different decisions by having a very rich model, a visual model, as you can see, which brings together the facade of the building and how that performs with the internal aspects, the structural components, and the building services elements, the HVAC units of that building. So this role of modeling is what I'd like to posit as being a key contributor that design technology organizations can bring to the conversation that we're having today around convergence. And I'll demonstrate this. This is obviously a building example. What I'd like to do now is to demonstrate this use of modeling as an integrated form of communicating and bringing together different participants by use of this video as well. If we could just run that short video. So this is, I like to call this our virtual innovation park. I was at BRE. For those that have been there in Watford, the Building Research Establishment have got an innovation park, which essentially brings together some of the technologies that are available to improve the built environment. And this is our, if you like, our virtual example of that. Some of this is, as Jim had on his slide, some of this is the here and now, and some of this is on the leading edge and in development, research and development. And what we're looking at here is this example. It's an urban environment, so it's a city-scale project, and we're trying to understand how to integrate different parts of the rebuild process for this urban generation scheme. So first of all, we need to understand where the land is and what's available in terms of resources around the area. Firstly, if we're taking an existing building, as in Jim's example, we have to address the energy performance of approximately 70% of the buildings that are standing today will be standing in 2050. So the ability to capture existing information is critical, and this example here shows how we can capture an existing premise, an existing building, and then look to redefine that, look to optioneer that building using this modeling process to then produce energy outputs, energy profiles of different options. With the ability to look at different options for energy use, we'll be able to then look at the operational cost, look at impact in terms of shading and lighting for the surrounding areas, look at the impact on the environment more broadly, again, taking a more systems view of the subject matter, but equally bringing to bear the mindset conversation piece here is around having people engage with the subject in a more holistic way. Manufactured products, so once we're able to visualize and to simulate products, by bringing together manufacturers' components into buildings and into infrastructure assets, we can then model their performance, which gives us a much richer understanding of how that environment will perform in the real. We can then size the building services accordingly. We can reduce the size of buildings by simply reducing the amount of stuff that we need to put into the void space of buildings. Again, optimizing through the operational phase the construction decisions themselves. This example here is very much looking at how to construct and to improve and optimize the construction sequencing. Now, as we move into the operational phase of that building and the assets that are around it, what's the energy flow? What are the energy demands of that building? And then how are we going to service that environment with the surrounding infrastructure? Does something need to change in the surrounding infrastructure to support that environment? Again, a subject that Jim touched on is actually looking at the dynamic energy use of buildings as they're in operation, not just 45 days after the event. So again, something else that design technology firms can bring to bear is the ability to aggregate and to visualize and communicate and analyze this information in a way that perhaps hasn't been done today. So very much an illustration of the convergence theme on a broader scale at a city level. Thanks.
So Adam, you really are one of the companies that's trying to pull all these parts of VERGE together. Your view is we do need a sort of vision, we do need a sort of systemic approach to all of it.
Absolutely, and I certainly wouldn't pretend that we're all the way there. I would suggest some of the tools are there in terms of the energy analysis tools that Tim was talking about earlier, but that is the end goal, if you like. As I say, we have our customers, 10 million users across those three spaces: construction, manufacturing, of consumer products, as well as automotive and others, and then the entertainment industries, yeah.
And in terms of looking at the world through this lens of sustainability, are you being pulled by your customers, or do you find that you're pushing them in that direction?
Well, it's a predictable response. Perhaps it's a combination. There's a push and a pull. I think that organizations like ourselves and IBM, Johnson Controls was mentioned as well, and others are teaming up and working in a more collegiate way. Coalition appears to be the word of the year, and I don't know if it's something to do with the change in government here in the UK, but certainly I see that happening much more. So yes, there is that from a push side, if you like, a supply side, but also increasingly clients. And of course, Mike is a very good example of those leading clients that are trying to pull the industry from an innovation perspective.